The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Madam Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Delegate Simon, you have the floor.
Madam Speaker, members of the House, I have good news. Virginia election officials just released their post-election report for the November 3rd election. And they concluded, the bottom line is they concluded Virginia conducted the most safe, secure, and successful election in the history of the Commonwealth on November 3rd, 2020. Let's talk about that for just a second. Successful. We had new legislation in place, and we made new initiatives starting at about this time last year to increase absentee voting and early voting opportunities, to make it easier to register to vote electronically and so forth. And as a result, 4,413,388 votes were cast. That's a record number of overall votes cast. 426,000 new voters registered this year, and what's sort of striking about that number is 77.7% of those newly registered voters actually cast a ballot this year. So these weren't just sort of registration drives where people were getting signed up for the sake of signing them up. These were people that were enthusiastic and wanted to be able to cast their votes, and they did. Let's talk about what a safe election this was. 2.6 million people took advantage of some form of early voting this year. And again, Madam Speaker, members, that could not have happened without the leadership of folks like Delegate Herring and all of us that supported HB1 last year to allow for no excuse absentee voting. Localities across the Commonwealth that increased their satellite voting locations for people to come and vote early. And as a result, nearly 60% of voters were able to cast their votes without having to crowd the polling places and cram into small spaces on election day. So they were able to vote safely and securely, Madam Speaker. This was the most secure election. We conduct post-election audits. We have logic and testing of the machines, and all those results came back with flying colors. We heard some thoughts and some allusions to problems when some localities, due to the new volume of absentee ballot requests, sent some voters more than one ballot. But an audit shows that zero, not one person attempted to cast more than one of those absentee ballots. So the election was great. It went as well as you could possibly imagine. Thanks in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of record turnout and one of the highest attention elections that we've ever seen. And Madam Speaker, that's no accident. That's the result of the hard work by our elections officials, which I'll come back to in a second. Madam Speaker, members of the House, I'll also say that I recognize today is budget day. And when I was a member of the minority, I looked forward to budget day. It was my favorite day of session. And it was sort of the one day that, even as a member of the minority, I got to play, right? I got to put amendments on the floor. I got to take objections out. I had a chance to speak to them. And it was a lot of fun. I will admit, I enjoyed getting a chance to play with the big boys on budget day, even as a member of the minority. But today, Madam Speaker, members of the House, I want to draw your attention to a budget amendment that's going to hit the floor that I think is very serious and is very important that we pay attention to. And it suggests, I think the game here, having played this myself, is to continue to push forward a narrative that casts doubt on the integrity of our election process. Right? In spite of the report that we've gotten, in spite of all the data to the contrary, in spite of all the evidence that says we just conducted the most secure, most successful, and safest election in the history of the Commonwealth, we continue to have folks push a narrative that says that there's some sort of fraud going on, that there's suspicion, that we can't trust the results, that we're going to have dead people casting ballots. Now, Speaker, it's the allegation, the narrative is unfounded, it's unfair, it's without merit, and it's not just fun and games. Now, Speaker, members of the House, I know that we're all immersed right now in session. Very few of us have time to watch the news. But at the end of the day, I go home, and I hope that you all will too, and I do get the clips, I get to see the highlights from what's going on in Washington. And I've seen the Virginia House managers putting on their case. And the video and the images we're seeing are shocking and disturbing. And Madam Speaker, that arises because folks continue to push conspiracy theories and a narrative that says that our election results can't be trusted, that there's fraud going on, that there's malfeasance happening, and there's no evidence to support it. And Madam Speaker, I would encourage the members of the minority that continue to push this narrative to please cut it out. Please cut it out. If you watch the results of continuing to push this false narrative, it's dangerous. People's lives are being lost. It's not just about scoring political points. It's not just about trying to get a mailer out for next year's election. The elections that we just had in November here in Virginia, I'm going to say it again, were the most secure, the safest, and the most successful in Virginia history. That's the narrative that the public needs to hear. That's what we need to be telling folks. That's what needs to be understood about our election. And the report, I think you should all read it, concludes that citizens in the Commonwealth and across the nation owe their registrars and their elections officials a great debt of gratitude for their sacrifice and dedication to free and fair elections. Madam Speaker, I couldn't agree more. Madam Speaker, I hope that it's the pleasure of the body to continue to thank and join me in thanking our elections officials and registrars and everyone for putting on great and fair elections. And can we please stop pushing these false narratives, because we've all seen how dangerous they can be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Delegate Simon. The delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Delegate Gilbert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I suppose Delegate Simon is taking more than the 2 minutes he is going to afford us to discuss the amendment to which he referred, so I will do likewise. Madam Speaker, no one condones what happened at the Capitol on this past January. No one on our side condones that. No one thinks that that was right. The narratives about a stolen election, I think, have given way to something much different. For those of you who may not have seen it, Time Magazine recently wrote an article, a comprehensive article that pretty much validated many of the concerns that people have about not the fact that this election was stolen, so much that the political left, the media, industry, big tech, all sort of came together to ensure an outcome. And for those of you who have not read the Time Magazine article, I encourage you to do so, because it validates many of the concerns that people rightfully have about how, not that this election was stolen, but that how it was manipulated. And one of the key components of that manipulation, Madam Speaker, was the lengths to which those on the other side went to change the rules of the game, whether it was legislatively or more often in court. Even here in Virginia, we saw people go to court to change the rules by which people cast votes, notably not having to have a witness requirement on an absentee ballot anymore. These are meaningful, impactful, serious, very real changes to our election system that people took note of. They may have misinterpreted many of them, but the lengths to which people went to change the game had a very real impact on this election. And so the amendment to which the gentleman refers is one that is very, very simple. And it says something I think more than just the text embodies. It says, to what lengths are our colleagues on the other side willing to go to ensure that the rules of the game are as loose as possible so that they can avail themselves of those changed rules? And if they are not even willing to remove dead people from our voter rolls, Madam Speaker, to me it says a whole lot about the lengths to which they are willing to go. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Gilbert. The delegate from Newport News, Delegate Price.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Delegate Price, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to associate myself with the remarks made about voting from the delegate from Fairfax. And to answer the other delegate's rebuttal question, what lengths are we willing to go to? I will say that the lengths that most of us are willing to go to include to remove the obstacles that have been put in place that made the rules of the game unfair for many communities, to undo the targeted efforts of voter suppression that have plagued our Commonwealth since voting was even a thing, and to make sure that all who want to vote can do so easily, safely, and without intimidation. We will go to great lengths to protect our democracy and make sure it's fair and accessible. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Delegate Price.